This is the In the Black podcast.
And recently, Trevor Noah had some academics on his podcast where they were discussing segregation and, I guess, trying to unpack segregation which is a very difficult
whether or not it was a good idea.
And it's a very difficult topic to try and unpack.
When I'm in a room with anyone where we start to tie together multiple things. So if I'm in a room with Black people, already there's like an implicit trust because we know what certain actions, words, and vibes mean. And then you're in a room with another African. Already. Now, even if you shout at me, I know what your shout means. The same way an Italian knows what an Italian shout means.
Yeah.
Right? I know I'm prefacing it with a lot because it's a loaded question.
Yes.
But I would love to know if you think integration was the right solution, maybe, on the other side of, what America, of civil rights.
Yeah.
And it's a very difficult topic to try and unpack.
Very.
And he recently got a lot of backlash for some of his comments, and we'll drop that.
Yeah, DL
here as we're that's a different story. But yeah, DL came out and he gave him the business.
That may be the stupidest thing I've ever. And first off, I've heard enough from South Africans this year.
But given circumstances, I know both of you guys have heard Trevor's comments. Have you also heard the conversation? Maybe not in its totality, because that whole conversation was
I heard the comments from the ladies,
from the professors, right? Okay, so you guys have heard it. So what do you think about Trevor's comments, given the conversation, the totality of the conversation that they were having?
I think his comments and the totality of the conversation make sense. They fit the total context of the situation, of the conversation. Here's the bigger issue that I think that we fall victim to is we live in a clip watching society where we are looking to take the hottest take, to clip it out and to put it on social media to get people talking and get people responding. I don't think that DL, Jamel Hill, neither one of these two people who should really be in this arena to have an academic conversation, they didn't listen to the full context. They didn't listen to the full conversation. Because while I'm not defending Trevor, I think if they listen to the full conversation, you get a deeper understanding and be like, oh, okay, I see where you were coming from. I don't necessarily agree, but I feel where you are headed by asking that question. If you have the whole conversation taking place. But again, I'm also one who's like, fuck Trevor Noah, because he is a comedian who dabbles in race relations and social justice conversations and gets a lot of invites from people because he's a biracial dude from South, wherever the fuck he's from. So
don't be disrespectful, dog. Just tell the dudes from South Africa. Don't be disrespectful.
I was very sincere.
I know you hate Elon Musk. Come on, bro.
No, my apologies, Trevor. No, fuck Trevor. I ain't apologizing. I didn't know where you're from. I knew you were from some South. It could be Carolina, America.
A menace to society. Go ahead.
I think that's the thing. We put our celebrities, our Black celebrities, on a pedestal, and because they move in spaces where they are dominated with white people, we assume that they have a firm understanding on Black history. And we have been demonstrated and shown time and time again that these motherfuckers just are not equipped to have these conversations. But we don't go into these conversations with that mentality thinking, like, damn, he's a celebrity. He's a comedian. He's not going to get this right. So when they get it wrong, flares go up, battle cry. Now we're calling them all these names, and now we're ostracizing these people. When I think DL is in a sphere, in an environment where he could have reached out to Trevor. Trevor seems like he's an approachable dude that doesn't mind having conversations, and he could have had a conversation, and DL might have learned something from Trevor.
Yeah,
But
might have
I'm
learned
just,
something from him.
it's. I was really frustrated, and I'm tired of watching our people be devoured by clips. That we just watch a clip and we watch a clip and we end up thinking that these people are knowledgeable and it's not even the title. It's not even the clip. It's the title. Like, if we actually had a conversation about integration and segregation, I think it would be more enlightening to people than they realize, because it was never as black and white as it's been presented in white history books.
I mean, that conversation clearly presented to me, the idea that, these concepts need to be examined on an intrinsic level, and that there are clearly degrees and strains of these ideas. They're not absolute. They in other words, they do not have to be absolute.
I wasn't offended by, to me, it came across it came across to me as a
I was intrigued.
question, as an inquiry, and I think that it makes sense, because
I think it's a fair inquiry.
It is a fair inquiry, because if you have people like Martin Luther King said, I mean, famous quote, he said he thinks that for equality, he thinks he's integrated his people into a burning building.
To a burning house. Yeah.
I think that it's a very apt and fair question, because I think, honestly, we have desegregated America, but the ills that we were saying that we wanted to remove by integrating into American society, we were really just assimilating into American society.
Which is a difference.
It's a drastic difference. Because hold up, Crush, because there is a drastic difference between saying now black people can use the same hospitals that white people can use, but at the same time, we're still experiencing the fact that black people 9 times out of 10 are treated differently than their white counterparts when they go to these hospitals, how they're recognized, how they're triaged, how they're responded to by doctors.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like
quite a difference. Right. And that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I think it's a fair question to ask if you're delving into, are you saying you're getting the end result that you were looking for by desegregating? And if that's the question
people who are being honest,
if that's the question we're asking, then we know that the answer is no. We haven't gotten the results that we were looking for by desegregating. That doesn't mean we shouldn't have. It just means that we
it just means that we haven't.
Ongoing. Yeah. That's what it means, and that the controls and means, need to change.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But it's that distinction between equality and equity. It's the same thing. It falls into the line of the same thing. Like, none of us, our people have never fought for equality. We weren't looking to be on the same level and have this. We were looking for equity. It was always about opportunity, a level, fair playing field, and we would demonstrate that we can compete with anybody the same way. And again, within our communities, there were fights amongst our people for years regarding Brown versus the Board of Education. It wasn't as if there was this, but we always say that we're not a monolith until it comes down to start talking about Black history. Then we're a monolith all of a sudden. Like, no. Unpack the internal contradictions and the quarrels that we had around this, because we have lost sight of that, and we don't have those quarrels amongst our people anymore to the degree that we once had, and because we were having the quarrels and doing the work at the same time.
I think
now
that's
we're typing on social media.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say, because I think, and I mean, maybe we're glorifying it, maybe we are what do you want to call it, romanticizing the struggle in some capacity, but there was a lot of nasty and hard work that was done during the civil rights movement. Martin Luther King was not the angel people now see him as. He was internally, even amongst Black people, like, this nigga's a rabble rouser and a troublemaker. Like, what the fuck?
Because I mean,
we didn't support him to the level that we think we did.
Yeah, and we have to say the quiet part out loud here. This wasn't about asking for the right to be human, the right to be regarded as human. We had to economically force them to do it. We had to economically force them to legislatively enforce that shit. And a very small portion of white people wanted that shit. the mass.
And it's not that much different today than we saw back then.
We had to force
Like,
that on them.
yeah, white liberals and white moderates are still just as fucking dangerous now as they were back then, if not more dangerous than they were, because they have more money comparatively to
comparatively,
then.
yeah.
So we're seeing the same thing taking place, but I think we're going to see more of these online firestorms take place the deeper we go into this man's administration. And I say that largely because our people are looking for glimmers of hope, and anything that is demonstrating or giving the inkling that you are on the other side is going to be immediately matched with pitchforks and torches. And while I think that is okay, what it doesn't demonstrate is, and it shows that we are lacking media literacy and demonstrating our overall critical thinking, because those two things are going to be the things that we need to demonstrate on social media currently more than anything else. It's
so you don't think that
these
conversations have a productive value at all?
I think they have absolutely. Okay, so to me, they have zero productive value. And the reason that I would say zero, because they don't manifest and turn into anything that changes the material conditions of our people. So for me, that's my standard. How is this changing the material condition of our people every day? And if it's not, what is your standard? How are you measuring whether it's productive? Is it making people feel good? Is it giving people a level of hope? Is it giving people an outlet to express? Those may be different for other people. And I'm not looking to critique how other people do it.
All those things have its place in the culture, though. All those things have a place.
They have a place in the culture and in the struggle. And that's what I'm saying. So for me, that's why I'm really hesitant to come out and just lambast people when they're looking for positions of hope. Now, privately in conversations, I'll say, let's unpack what you're doing. Let's unpack why you think that's an actual boycott. Let's unpack why you think that is a thing. But I'm trying to be real cognizant of not just coming out and saying those things on social media, because our people are in such a pivotal space where we need hope, to feel hope in a hopeless situation more than anything else. So I won't offer criticism, but I won't offer them bullshit either. I ain't doing either. I ain't gonna do that either.
I dig it. I dig it.
Yeah.
I dig it. I think honestly that more conversations like that are needed. The only problem that I have with the conversations, and I know it sounds very contradictory. I know it sounds even a bit ridiculous given the space that we're in and that how we are in terms of communication, right? But the only problem I have with the conversations are that we're having these conversations in white spaces or in mixed spaces, and when you're doing it online, you can't you can't, no pun intended, but given the medium, given social media, given the platforms that we're having these conversations on, we can't distinctly remove white people or others from this conversation to have a productive conversation. So sometimes these conversations just look like us just yelling back and forth at each other, looking discombobulated and disjointed and ununified, right? Ununited.
No, I agree.
Whereas
it's a contradiction I have in my own self in that regard.
Yeah,
it's a struggle.
Whereas at the same time, those conversations and that whole presence is needed. You need to look disjointed. You need to be ununified on some issues to have that debate, to have those constructive conversations, to then get to a unified point. Like I said, the only problem I have is having it in mixed spaces and what that looks like. And can we honestly, at this day and age, can we even have those conversations and think that we can have them in a silo or amongst ourselves? I don't think
but not only that,
can we get to a unified point?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you have to have the conversation to say what the unified point is. You can say that, for example, Crush L says that what's my man's name? The pastor that was like boycott Target. Jamal Bryant. Okay. L says that that's a nonsensical point of view completely.
Waste of energy. Yes.
Some people on the opposite side would say that it's
absolutely disagree. Yes.
Yep. Some people say that's a starting point. We need to figure something out. So we have that debate to say, okay, if you believe that it's nonsensical and you believe that it's a starting point, where is the medium, if there's a medium, and how can we become, what is your favorite phase? What are you, how can we then use
change
that
the material conditions?
Material conditions of our people?
Point. We need a sensible starting point, a practical
but
starting
I think you say that the key thing, and that's why I go back to the critical thinking and the media literacy component again. Within critical thinking framework is the ability to have an argument, to have a particular stance, and to be able to dialogue back and forth in a debate with a clear objective. And the clear objective is not to see whose dick is bigger, who has a deeper understanding of Black media studies. It is to say, hey, we're looking to move our people to this direction. We can debate about this. But if it's just to prove each other's right and wrong, and who's read the most and who's done this, which is taking place across our culture currently.
I'll give you that. Yeah, I'll give you that.
The goal
with good intent, right? I think there's good intent there. I don't think anybody's doing it out of malice. Do we have some grifters who are manipulating and taking advantage of that? Of course. But I think the debate is important, and I think it's an opportunity for us to build with each other in a way that we can begin grounding each other in a foundation where we can begin building and moving in a certain direction. But I'm past the point of saying that Trevor Noah is a coon or a sellout or this or that.
That's not productive at this point.
You should be able
to, even though there are some coons and some sellouts.
Absolutely.
Facts.
That we should be calling out. I don't think Trevor Noah is one of those folks. Because again, I don't think he is part of the resistance or the revolution in the first place. Like,
go ahead, Crush. You can help us close it out. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, at this point, we, as a people, quote unquote, should be able to competently take stock of our points of view. Okay, not merely look at them as black and white, as yes and no, but as something that but as a brick in the road that can get us in one direction. Because these points of view exist, and there is a meeting point in between them. Like I just said, nonsensible. It's a starting point. Then what do we need? A sensible starting point. You just have to be willing to merge these viewpoints and understand that we have to do this together. You doing this alone, it will not be enough. And me being compromised is going to make things worse.
Yeah.
So we have to find the happy medium and admit that there is one, and realize that there's a bigger picture that involves us all.